and welcome to a brilliant edition of My Body the Guitar with Karla Linn Merrifield. Great to see you, Karla.
Well, great to see you too, and howdy to everyone out there.
So this week, a really special artist, as they all are.
This is probably the most special in the book to me. This is my poem for Jackson Browne, whom I have adored, loved, since he first hit the scene. So I've grown up into relative maturity with him all my and I really love him. I just love him. And he's probably the one guitarist, singer-songwriter. I think I have everything but his new CD that he brought out during COVID. So I'm a little behind, but he's the closest to my heart of them all.
Well, I want to, before we do the book for Action Brown, because I'd heard of him and I'd heard him, but I hadn't really listened to him closely because there's so much. So I'm now a massive fan of, because I think he's incredible.
Yeah. And it's the combination. It's the human being. Well, yeah, it's just the magic combination. It's the human being and who he is in his heart, and his astounding ability to write the most incredible songs, both musically and lyrically. He never ceases to blow me away, and I can listen to a song. I mean, one of my favorites that was instrumental in my life, The Pretender, because I actually worked in advertising, and it's very much, going off to that job and that kind of thing. And he just nails it time and time again. And they range from, love poems or love songs, to protest songs, to story songs. He is, I don't know, nobody does it like he does it for me. He is the God of gods. He's the Zeus. Okay.
I'm sure everybody else is. So, Karla, this beautiful poem.
Okay. And this poem, I mean, this kind of reflects that. It's the only real love poem in the whole book. I mean, there's a lot of sex in the book, but this is a love poem. It's by way of background, it's something called a villanelle by form, which is a French form that's been around for a couple centuries, and it's complex. I haven't written that many of them because they're a real challenge to write and feel natural, because there's a couple things going on. 19 lines, and in those 19 lines, 5 triplets, and then a quartet at the end, and a quatrain, as they say in my lingo. And the lines have to repeat in certain spots, and then there has to be these rhymes that repeat. So it really is a challenge, but I knew I knew well before I sat down to write it that Jackson Browne was going to get a villanelle, that I had to do this for him because of his elevated status. I had to be the very best poet I could possibly be, and this is the form that challenges me to do that. So I guess without further ado, let me read it, okay?
Please do.
Okay. It's called Confronting Something External. Wait, whoops. Let me start over. See how he gets my heart going? Confronting Something Internal Within. And there's an epigraph that goes, I failed to hear the heart that was beating alone on the naked ride home. And that's Jackson Browne's words from his song, The Naked Ride Home. And then the poem begins. I am the naked ghost crone who has slipped ethereally into your nights among women's bodies. I have heard you moan. Again, I have erotically cast the rune bones. Marianne, Pamela, a chick named Connie flamed bright through me, for I am the naked ghost crone. Feeling your lips, your fingertips, your feathers, your stones, feeling Nico, Janice, Laura, Daryl, you slid into, oh, tight. Among your lovers' bodies, I have heard you moan. Sensuously holding you in my power cone, inhabiting Joni, Phyllis, Lynn with love's second sight. I am your naked ghost crone. I have lured you tenderly to desire's warm home, worshiping with heat, touch, good, right, when among women's bodies I have heard you moan. Then is the hour I write this poem. Your song has quickened into the light. I am the naked ghost crone among those women's bodies. I have heard you moan.
So powerful, Karla. That's that's what a virtuoso piece of writing that is. I mean, God, I mean they're all amazing. That just takes my breath away. Really, all I wanted to do is read it again. There's so much in this poem as there was all. So, what are your thoughts? What was the background to this one, Karla?
Part of it was context of where it falls. I knew it would fall within the book, and I knew it was surrounded or prefaced in a way by a number of poems, and we've done, like the Stevie Ray Vaughan poem, a number of poems that where I am a living person communing with the dead. Okay, I mean there's a real thick spirituality running through this book, as visceral and hot sometimes than it is, and so so with Stevie Ray. Sure, I was talking to him as a living person across the veil, and reaching out to him in the beyond. This is the only poem where I'm the one who is in the beyond, speaking to the living Jackson Browne. I don't know where that came from. It just that's the way this was going to be. So a reversal of several that are in the poem that precede it, in the book that precede it, and here we are. It's my way, in a way, of saying I'm going to go to my death, and take you with me, because you've been here for through almost all of my life, and it surprised me, like, whoa, imagining yourself already dead. But it's also, another aspect of that, in that spirituality is, there's some witchy stuff going on in here. I mean, it's, very much, there's the human, the lips and the fingertips, but then there's feathers and stones. So there's kind of some wicked magic going on in here too, or some paganism that sprouts up. But I just would read articles about him, and a couple fabulous books about that era, the Laurel Canyon era in LA, when, everybody was converging on this, winding valley road, Laurel Canyon, and all these people, and all the women that, he's loved, from Nico, who was in the Andy Warhol crowd, to Joni Mitchell, who's, she's up there with, there's Jackson, Joni, and Leonard Cohen, okay, in my triple gods at the top. Anyway, and I'm feeling what, God, to have been one of those women, and to have a chance to be that intimate with him. And the safe way to do that was to imagine myself dead already and looking back on the life I lived and how I loved him. So kind of
there's a film in there, Karla. I think that's a film. My God, that's fantastic. Before we go through the poem, one thing that struck me straight away, Karla, is the fact that he's such a great artist, and as a role model, you felt you had to be the best poet you could be to do this poem. And it's interesting how great artists get anyone to kind of raise to a different level.
Yeah.
I think,
and the whole book, in a way, has been that way for me, is being summoned to be the very, very best I could be. And I've referred to it a couple times as really my culminating book. And I know that's not going to be the case. I've got books in the can already that are, ready to get published. But this is, I don't know, this is a new height for me. And it's being inspired by people like Jackson Browne or Jimmy Page, or Jimi Hendrix, and their mastery. And what, if they can do that as guitarists, what I have to do to be a poet, to
beautiful,
aspire to that kind of mastery. Yeah. And 10 years from now, maybe I can play a Jackson Browne song halfway decent on my guitar, but I'll be happy. I'm happy with the poetry right now.
Sooner than you think, Karla. We'll work on those for certain. Let's get into the poem, because there's so much in here that is. I know where to start. The first line. Can you explain the first line? Because I looked at it and I didn't. I'm not quite sure what for me. I don't quite understand that. It looks beautiful.
Okay, I'm the naked ghost crone. Okay, and that's one of the two lines that weaves and weaves and weaves through the poem. And all right, so I'm talking to him in this poem as if I'm dead. I'm a crone. Okay, so I'm maiden, mother, crone, the three stages of women's life in pagan traditions. So, here's the crone. Okay, I'm a mature senior. And I've died. So I've taken on this persona. I mean, the crone imagery has a lot of background to it in itself, just as the wise woman. Okay. But this one, she's dead. Okay. She's old, she's dead, and she's naked, totally stripped of all the trappings of being human. So I'm introduced, I'm saying, here I am, Jackson, this is how I come to you. This is the essence that I bring to this poem. It really is, me talking. So I am the naked ghost crone who has slipped ethereally into your nights. So this ethereal spirit being that was kind of a voyeur, being with him and claiming to be with him when he is with the women he has loved over the years. And actually, and then coming up with, that's probably the piece that blew me the most away was, okay, I imagined, what if I were able to inhabit as a ghost go back in time, be in their bodies, and be with him when he's making love to them. And the one thing that came out of it, it's an auditory thing. It's not so much tactile. I have heard you moan. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it took my breath away. It's like that. And that's what, and that's part of the line the other line that gets repeated. So it's a very important line. Those two lines, the naked ghost crone and the women's bodies moaning thing, is so central to how the villanelle is working here. So I knew I had to have something that was special, and that's how it turned out. I could actually, close my eyes, hear him moan, and of course I'm addressing him, directly too. I'm not talking he. I heard him moan. I'm talking to you, Jackson Browne.
Yeah. That's and so we go further on, and I totally get the is it the Wiccan type of influence with the rune bones and rune bones? Yeah, could you just talk about that verse, Catherine?
So again, I have erotically cast the rune bones. So people do tarot, they do runes, they do I Ching. To access, not so much predict the future at all. It has to do with accessing your mind to another way of thinking. And it's a very, very old tradition, where they literally, and this is probably, I don't know, I haven't read the anthropology of it, but rune bones probably go back to Neolithic times, cave people.
Oh yeah.
Where they had the digits of small animals that had markings on them, and you threw them on the ground, or cloth if you were or a fur, and you looked at the patterns or tea leaves, okay, and they were, I don't know how, I've never done rune bones. I've done other stuff, but I've never done rune bones. But I've certainly seen very old excavated examples of them. So when I've here in this role as the crone, and again and again, I mean, for every woman that I know of that he's been intimate with, who's mentioned in this poem, again and again, I've cast those bones, thinking of what kind of lover, and how he is a lover with those women who have been close to him. And what does that, and basically the rest of the poem is the answer to what the rune bones were teaching me through that process. So I've cast the rune bones again and again, and here's Mary Ann Pamela, a chick named Connie flamed bright. I mean, there was some woman in one of the biographies that the only line was and then he went home with this girl Connie, and it was over and done. And even her, she had her moment in the sun or the night, that they were through me. They came through me as the naked ghost crone.
I feel this is really cinematic, this poem, Karla.
I'd make it interesting if you put it to music and did a music video.
Yeah.
Of course, I imagine myself, Stevie Nicks doing it or something.
So beautiful. And with the I was going to ask you when with the recurring line, excuse the layman talk, of "I'm your naked ghost crone." How long did that take because that's such a beautiful line? How long did that take you to finalize?
Oh, the whole poem or just that line?
Just that line.
I'd have to go back to my notes in my journal, but I'm pretty sure I got that the crone was the absolute starting. I mean, it's not only the first line, but that was the imagery that I wanted. And that was probably days of carrying up here in my head. And that's how a lot of my poems start happening. I mean, the first thing I knew was it was a villanelle. I mean, I have my notes. I save everything. And I have my original notes where I just pulled Jackson Browne's Wikipedia pages and printed them out as kind of a starter. And that was months and months and months ago, before I started reading biographies and Laurel Canyon books, and because there have been a couple of those. And I knew villanelle. I wrote villanelle across that Wikipedia printout. So I fall asleep thinking about these things. All right, if it's going to be a villanelle, I've got to have two really, really strong lines that, because you keep hearing them over and over again. And how did I want to present myself to him? That was the question I asked myself. How do I want to be with him? What persona do I want to project for him? How can I, because it's like a supplicant in a way. But I came, it was, the crone thing is so empowering. And then to be a ghost was like, and it's just over, I don't know, morning, waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep and laying there thinking. 99% of a poem is the thinking part that long before you start noodling. And I knew crone would be a good rhyming word too, because you have to keep that in mind. And then because I think that's where you start with a villanelle, is like, what are the two lines going to be? And then you can start mapping out the poem. So what rhymes with crone? Oh my God, moan. Oh my God. And then it was like, oh yeah, I have heard you moan. Didn't have to be there. Could do it from the beyond. Could do it as a poet.
That's wonderful. So going further down, it's like I said, I feel the whole thing. It builds so beautifully. You kind of. In fact, I have, for anyone watching, I have the poem on my phone so I can follow along. But it's like when you finished it, it's just like I was just like when you watch the video back, it's like, oh my God, I'm taking it. You just it's stunned for a second, because it's like, oh God, that's amazing. For to see that. What I was going to ask you, Karla, was Shakespeare an influence in this, with the imagery of the ghost and things like that? In terms of,
it's probably in there way back somewhere. I mean, you can't, you can't be an English major, as I was in college, and then go on and get a master's in French literature, and then poetry, second master's. Shakespeare is always with you in the Western tradition. And then I don't know, I've seen all but maybe 4 of his plays produced on stage. So Shakespeare's always there. And God damn it, if Shakespeare could do it, I can do it. He had Hamlet talking to his dad's ghost. In a way, so I think if Shakespeare is here anywhere, it was subconscious, but Shakespeare gave me permission to have a ghost as an active participant in this particular poem. So yeah, but that's a good question, Paul. I mean, he's always, Shakespeare is always with us.
He's kind of the Chuck Berry of poetry, possibly. Do you think?
Well, I think he'd love that.
I hope so. Just going down for Karla, to the next line, the next which is seriously holding you in my power.
Yeah.
Could you just
cone?
Power cone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the sensuously, I mean, one of the things that struck me today as I was reading this, and that probably when I wrote it, I don't remember, but the adverbs, if you follow the adverbs through the poem, ethereally, erotically, sensuously, tenderly. Poets use adverbs very, very sparingly, because they can sound flowery. And I was very surprised. I consciously did that, and they were little touchstones, those adverbs, through the poem. I gave myself permission to do it. So sensuously holding you in my power code. So I'm holding him. I'm a ghost holding him, and it's sensuous in this power code. And when Wiccans, our modern day pagans, cast a circle and do their magic spells, and prayers, you create a power circle that you're safe within. And you build the circle, and then at the end of your ritual, you open that circle back up. So I took the circle idea from the pagan tradition and made it three-dimensional as a cone. So there's the circle at the base, and then so it's almost like this, that here's this cone, and inside of it, Jackson and I are together, the living and the dead.
Yeah. Fabulous. I mean, where did you come up with that concept? Because that's an incredible concept.
Oh, the power code? I don't. Well, it just it was an extension of the pagan, the holy circle that a coven will create when they practice their rituals. And I just, I saw it. I guess it was almost kind of sci-fi like, that it wasn't just a circle. It was three-dimensional, which was important. The cone is a three-dimensional geometric object. And I could see this, like, the cone, and there we were down in that circle at the bottom base of the cone with this like light holding us. It's very sci-fi in a way, that particular image, but it's got that whole pagan idea behind it as well too. I've got him. He's in my power for that, for this poem.
And just going on further with the next, the next verse as well. So you kind of develop in the story now with that type with the next verse.
Right. So it's I've been it's ethereal, erotically, sensually, and then I have lured you tenderly to desire's warm home. So not only it's not a bed. It's not the back seat of a car, anything that you associate with, possible sites of intimacy. It's home. And it is sensuous. And I want him to feel, when he reads this, that I'm holding him in this cone. I'm with him in this cone. But it's tenderly, and it's where, I feel I encountered, where desire comes from, and it's this warm home in my heart.
Beautiful.
My dead, naked crone heart,
So with the last verse there, Karla, could you just talk about that? Because that this is what reminded me of Shakespeare so much.
Okay, this is where you have to bring in according to Villanelle rules. You have to bring the two repeated lines together in the last two. So you've got this. It's a quatrain, 4 lines. This is the hour. Then is the hour I write the poem. Your song has quickened in the light. I am the naked ghost crone among those women's bodies. I have heard you moan. So all this kind of foreplay of the triplets, and then you get to this closing stanza, and he made it possible for me then is the hour. After I've gone through this, then is the hour. I write the poem. Your song has quickened in the light. So quickened, brought to life.
Mm.
You know, the quick and the dead. Okay. So, and then that's underneath there too. By choice of the word quickened, you know, because there's that whole, you know, I've come to judge the quick and the dead from the Christian tradition. You know, your song is quick. His song, what he has sung to me over the years is what has made this poem come forth and be in the light. So it's on your phone.
Mm. Yeah.
This is who I, and then I close with that emphatic statement. This is who I am, and what, you know, how I feel about you.
So, another question I was going to ask you, Karla, is even before the book was, you had the idea for the book. How when did you first think, do you know what, I'd like to write a poem about, you know, great people like that, great musicians?
Oh, that was really the nub of when I decided I wanted to write about. I mean, that was the nub that started the whole thing. Was, oh yeah, I want to write. I haven't sold it, but I'd written a whole book about Leonard Cohen, a tribute to him. So I had been dabbling in that's more than a dabble, a whole book. I'd been in the music zone, for quite a while, and then the trigger was, okay, what am I going to write next? I had just written a book about an artist, the American John Sloan, and it was like, okay, what's next? Oh, let me go back to music, and guitarists. Yeah, that'd be fun. Listen to more music. Get to know these characters better than just, Alexa, play me Jackson Browne's Yeah, Yeah. This is one of my favorite Jackson Browne songs. Anyway, so I knew, and it started when I was with you on the Queen Mary 2 for that world voyage. Oh my God, it's already 2 years ago.
Wow.
I was already, working. I was finishing the Sloan book, but I was already plotting the guitar book, and I knew, I would be writing about my great guitar gods. And Jackson Browne was right at the top of the list. And we've done a few, Jimmy and Eric Clapton and Stevie, and so I started, the book started taking shape, and I wanted to pay tribute to the guitarists who are in my life, who I know personally, not just the gods. So that's why the book is actually ended up being in 3 parts, because then I said, well, and I told you on the ship, and Catherine, when I get back home from this voyage and get back up north from Florida, I'm going to buy a guitar and learn how to play, because I wanted to know what these masters have really achieved. And I think everybody started with that first guitar, and that's why there are several first guitars in the book. They started somewhere. They started with that G chord. And look where they ended up. And I thought learning to play would inform the book so much better. I would understand their mastery so much better because of my struggles. So the first part of the book, the first, and I don't know if they're equal or not, I'll have to do that count, but the first part is what I call mere mortal. And that's me. It's my my first year playing the guitar in poems. And then the second part is called Local Heroes. And that's the people I know personally, like you, my girlfriend Roseanne, my pal Joe up in Alaska, my friend Dennis in Austin. There's so many guitarists I know personally who've been important to me. And so I pay them honor in Local Heroes. And then there's the Mighty Gods. And that's where all this stuff has been going. So there's actually, and there's Greek mythology for you, mere mortal, local heroes, and mighty gods.
I see that. It's incredible that you immersed yourself in to learn the guitar, which you're doing beautifully at, by the way. Absolutely. I mean, with a poem to learn to write these poems, they're mind blowing. I think people are going to be blown away with this, Karla, because it's never been done before, and it's never ever to this extent. I mean, it's incredible. But just as a rough, I'm going to ask you this in the later ones as well. As a rough guide, how many hours would you have put into this project by the time it's finished, roughly?
Oh, jeez.
Not hours, but if you were to put it in a time scale.
Well, the idea came to me in early November 2018. And here we are. Excuse me, almost spring, 2021. And I've got 4 more poems to write.
Wow.
And, read 30 books, 40 books.
Yeah.
Listened how many hours?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So people keep, recommending books to me. And I said, wait, no, got to finish my guitar. I mean, excuse me. That's all I've done. I've done other stuff. I swim every day, that kind of thing, But, in terms of concentration, I write in my journal and stuff. And I've done other poems now and again, but this has been my life.
Yeah, it's a wondrous achievement, I think, to do this. Another thing I was going to ask you for this poem, Karla, when you were writing it, were you listening to Jackson Browne while you were writing it?
Sure, absolutely. And it's interesting. Not just this poem. He's who I turn to all the time. Certainly for writing this poem. I just, I'll be sitting here and I'll be, doing poem submissions to journals and things. Okay, because I listen to different people as I'm working on poems, but I always go back to Jackson Browne. I always go back to Jackson Browne. He's my best guitar buddy.
Do you think that his lyrics are an influence on your style of poetry?
Oh, I think so. I think he's taught me a lot. And at some point I've tried playing one of his songs, Enough of the Night, which is a very simple song. I think it's mostly 2 chords. There may be over and over and over again. It's an interesting song in that respect, but I have an aspirational song of his someday that I will get to, but his lyrics, I can hear the song, Too Many Angels. I can hear that I'll be, making dinner or something. And I'm like, I have to stop, and tears can well up in my eyes. It's just so haunting, and it's so sad. Beautifully, beautifully sad. Or he'll make me, After the Deluge, which is one of his kind of activist songs. I can put that on and feel like I can do anything.
Yeah.
We can survive. Like COVID, I've played that song so many times during the COVID era, because it just gives me hope I mean, the way after the deluge, I mean, for us, it's like after COVID. It's just given me such strength. I mean, he's just amazing. And I can't believe, please. I have tickets to see him for the very first time in person on July 2nd. So.
Oh, wow.
The biggest musical dream come true. So may it be that it really happens, given the fluidity of the COVID situation. But I'm pretty confident it's an outdoor venue near Woodstock.
Oh, fantastic. Woodstock.
Yeah, it's right near Woodstock. Yeah. And it's an outdoor venue, so it should, given the progress we're making, I'm knocking on wood. That's a very pagan thing to do. That my very, very best friend and I are going to go see. So with James Taylor, no less. So it's like,
that's going to be amazing. That's going to be, and one of the things I always think about these artists is that I mean, everyone's got their favorite artists, and it's they're with you all the time. I find that about certain artists. I think, they kind of, whenever there's a thought of some sort of song, I find in a day, I might have 5 thoughts, and one of them will be about, that's such a great song, from whichever artist it may be. I think, and everyone's got their own favorites, and it's almost like a badge of honor, isn't it? Do you think?
A what?
Like a badge of honor, almost.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I think part of it is, yes, his mastery. I mean, one of the absolute best songwriters on earth. And to hear him, I mean, and he can go from, I mean, this is another part of the magic of Jackson Browne. He can go from his fabulous acoustical playing to the most emphatic, beautiful piano pieces. So he really, and sing. I mean, he's just such an idol. But I think underneath all that, I think one of the things that so moves me about him is how incredibly sincere he is. All he has done over the years, the anti-nuke protest concerts, those kinds of what he, just did last year during COVID. He's always been true to himself. And he wasn't, I mean, yeah, he went through the Laurel Canyon, let's smoke some dope stuff, but he was never, the real junkie that so many of them has been. He's just always been himself. Astounding. And that self, I just think, is just so shimmery, shimmery with goodness. And that's why that one line that, I've worshiping with heat, touch, good, right. So there's this heat to him. He touches our hearts, and it's good and it's right. And I don't know, Leonard Cohen, yeah, probably on a par that way. But Leonard, we lost him. So Jackson's still with us.
Well, he seems to looked after himself. I mean, he looks fantastic.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's aged very beautifully.
And the voice is, still is that. I mean, one of the things I find is that it's in the UK. It's not obviously very popular, but I heard "Running on Empty," and that is one of the most underrated guitar solos in the history of the universe. I can't tell you. I was learning it, and it's like,
oh, good.
I was like, oh my god, that is, and I'd never heard it before. And if David Lindley was the guitarist, and I think he does a lot of. He's a brilliant musician, but I think the fact that someone like it's a good mark of a singer-songwriter that they kind of allow someone to add a brilliant solo, because it's kind of, sometimes it can be all about them, and they're not on anybody, but the solo kind of, the whole song was just phenomenal. That's one of my, one of the best songs I've ever heard, actually, I think, really. The fact that, I think we live in a golden age of songwriters. I mean, I watched him on YouTube with Bruce Springsteen singing Running on Empty. And when you think of those songwriters from the 70s, James Taylor, Jackson Browne, Joni Mitchell, Carole King, Elton John, Billy Joel, the list goes on. Oh my
God! Yes, yes.
That is quite
Neil Young.
Neil Young.
I mean, it's astounding, and I feel. I mean, I was born into a golden era, in 1952, and I got to grow up with, this is the level of musicians. I mean, that doesn't even include the Beatles, or Rolling Stones. I mean, I just finished the Keith Richards poem a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I just feel so fortunate that I grew up, that I, was born when I was, when I was born and lived through all this. And there's still, I mean, James Taylor, Jackson, Joni Mitchell, still doing it.
Well,
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them.
Of course.
Keith Richards, it's unbelievable what Mark Knopfler. Oh God. Ooh.
It's interesting because it's March 2020. For anyone watching this in the future, and
yes, good.
When I heard the solo from Running on Empty, I mean, vaccines are very much in the news at the moment, and it's like someone had just gone and put some like adrenaline inside me. When I heard the solo, it's like, oh my God, the whole song was fabulous. But with that slide solo, I think that's one that it just blew me. I just sit back and think, oh my God, and then of course it goes on times, because I'm thinking you can't get in. It's a bit like great chocolate. You taste the first bite and you're constantly chasing that buzz, and it's wonderful. And an artist that's still creating new music as well. A lot of people, with all respect to some people, do it like greatest hits and stuff like that, but he's still making beautiful music, and it's so great to see the envelope still being pushed over the cliff.
Yeah. And there are so many contemporary artists right now, and somebody will send me, oh, you've got to listen to this and you got to listen to that, and I do, and it just. And maybe it's because, we have a long history with these people, and have, watched them over the course of their careers. It's real hard for me to get snapped into somebody contemporary that really does it quite like this. And we've talked about this before. So much of the music that we listen to, they evoke memories. You can remember exactly where you were when you first heard that song. And that's what young people are doing now. And I still discover, I mean, I didn't meet Stevie Ray Vaughan until the night that I conceived the book. That was that night was, the night that I got introduced to Stevie Ray, and I was like, oh. So it's, I still discover people who move me. It's just, I just keep going back to the ones I've had in my life so long. They're like old friends. Old friends.
Yeah. It's one of the, like I said, a poem, like, because they're all they're doing. I can't pick out. They're all fabulous. This is just absolute. This should be a film. The whole book should be a film, actually, but particularly this, because I can just see that the fit would be incredible. It's so beautiful. Is there anything you'd like to add, Karla, at all?
No, I'm looking. I made little notes along the margins of the poem, and I said, just about everything I wanted to say about him, because the bottom line, my one note across the bottom in all caps is he's always true to himself. And I think that's remarkable.
Well, it's the ultimate artist, isn't it? I think, really.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask from her. I think that's one of the things. It's been as ever, Carl. It's been unbelievable to talk to you. I've had such a great time. Learned so much, and I had never heard of these, the form of the poem before, and it's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to do something extraordinarily important for him. So that's the biggest challenge for me as a poet, to do a villanelle. I've only done, I think, 5 in my whole life. They're just, and because they have to sound, I mean, that's part of the thing. That's part of the challenge is you've got these repeating lines, and you've got, end rhymes, and you've got to make it sound natural. It can't be, that wouldn't do him honor. So someday, I'll track him down. Maybe I'll take a copy of the poem to the concert in July.
Why not? Why not? Absolutely. Well, I can definitely say, Carla, you're definitely not running on empty, because this is
no.
Is fabulous. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, we'll see what that's going to be.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Carl. It's been
thanks. Always a delight, a pure delight, really.
Thanks everyone watching, and we'll see you soon.
All right, everybody, happy jabs and post-COVID life. It's a coming.
Absolutely. All the best, Carla. Thank you so much.
Thank you.